eBay's founder plans to donate $50 million toward eliminating slavery around the world. This announcement follows a disturbing new report by the anti-slavery group Free Walk. The organization says there's nearly 36 million people worldwide living as slaves. The report defines a slave as anyone subjected to forced labor, debt bondage, trafficking, or servile marriage. Melina Lito is the trafficking program officer with the organization Equality Now. The group works for the protection and promotion of human rights for women and girls around the world, and she's here in our New York studios. Melina, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
36 million people enslaved. That's hard to believe in this day and age. Where does the bulk of modern slavery still take place?
Modern slavery or human trafficking is a global issue. It takes place in every country, in every region of the world. As we saw from the report, we see it in Middle East, we see it in Africa, we see it in North America, we see it in Latin America, we see it in Europe, we see it everywhere. The report does say that the four top countries out of the top 10 come from Africa, but nevertheless, it's a global phenomenon, it's a global issue. And it varies from state to state, from country to country, based on socioeconomic issues and sort of development, which some countries are more developed than others and things like that, but it's a global issue.
Yeah, and it's incredible that in 2014, in the 21st century, that it is still such a huge problem. Is it because there's not enough awareness, there's not enough money, or there's not enough compassion? How can you explain it?
We explain it as for us, we work on sex trafficking, and sex trafficking is a significant part of modern slavery. And for us, the issue is legal reform and having laws in place that will protect women and girls and will promote gender equality, will empower women. And for us, the issue is we need to target the demand that fuels sex trafficking. And we need to decriminalize those that are in prostitution and provide them with access to services. But targeting the demand is key, because by targeting the demand, we decrease the need for the supply for sex trafficking, for sexual exploitation, for abuse, for the inherent violence, and all of those issues that give rise to trafficking for women and girls.
Talk about the segments of population that are most vulnerable to human trafficking.
Absolutely, women and girls. We see it because sex trafficking is one of those issues that happens everywhere, right? And it is tied to sexual exploitation. It's tied to violence against women. It's tied to so many different issues. And when women enter the sex trade and women enter the commercial sex industry, they do so because of lack of choices. Whether that's a lack of economic choices, lack of access to resources, that's land, that's housing, that's property. That's a pure lack of economic choices or any choices. So that lack of choices makes them more vulnerable and more subject to abuse and control by somebody else and forced into coercion and exploitation.
So how then do we address this problem? How do we find solutions?
Absolutely. The solution must be based in the law. And the solution must be based, we must hear the voices of the survivors, whether it's in policy development or legal reform. And that solution has to target the demand, and it has to be based on targeting the demand that fuels sex trafficking, and it has to be based on decriminalizing the women that are in prostitution and providing them with access to services. That's something that our survivors call for, our partner organizations that are survivor-led, and also that's something that have very positive results in Northern Europe, in the Nordic countries.
And Melina, that makes perfect sense to me, but is the law the entirety of the solution? Because I would imagine there are already laws out there that should be addressing this.
Absolutely. The law is the beginning. The law is the foundation. The law is the building block. We need justice to empower women and girls. We need justice to promote gender equality. So law is the foundation. But of course, we need, with having a strong legal framework, a strong legal foundation, we can then address the other issues that are entangled, whether that's health, whether that's employment, that's education, and many other issues. And it's also about having the appropriate laws in place, because in some countries we see where legalization has been prostitution has been fully legalized, and we've seen that in those countries, prostitution, the demand for sex trafficking has increased. exploitation of women has increased, violence against women and has increased and has made it, has made them more subject to sex trafficking. So it's not just about, it's about having strong laws and the right laws that will address the demand.
Let's talk about the United States, because human trafficking does occur in this country as well. And it's just been within the last year. I think earlier this year, I don't remember exactly, when there was a big ring and a big bust that the FBI conducted. So are the laws in the U.S. sufficient? And is our government and law enforcement giving it the attention that it deserves?
Definitely. The U.S. has some very strong laws on anti-trafficking and sort of targeting the demand. And it has a very strong laws at the federal level. And we see a lot of attention, but the issue is, of course, with implementation, right? The reality is that sex trafficking is a reality. It is an occurrence in the United States. It's an occurrence in New York, and we need to make sure that the laws in place are properly implemented.
Yeah, and the resources are there.
Absolutely, always.
Yeah, Melina Lito, this is an important subject. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
day.